I was locked in a basement for 5 years, trained like a dog by the very wife I had single-handedly placed on the CEO's throne. But after a fire left me half crippled with over 500 fractures, I suddenly became her most beloved husband. She even slapped her childhood sweetheart, Ryan, in public to defend my honor and offered me the CEO position. Yet no one knew this was all part of my master plan, from the arson and the scapegoat to the switch documents and new alliances. It was the 5th year since I'd been dragged out of the basement. My wife, Olivia Harper, and her childhood sweetheart, Ryan, were testing my obedience. 5 years ago, you poisoned Ryan Ford and nearly killed him, she said. I've kept you locked up for 5 years because of it. Just apologize to Ryan, and I'll let you out. You could be my beloved husband again. I looked up through the wire mesh at the two of them, staring down and humiliating me. In that moment, my heart died completely. 5 years had eroded every last shred of affection I held for my CEO wife. But later, she came to regret it, kneeling and begging for my forgiveness. After I apologized to Ryan, I finally crawled out of that dark basement. The sunlight was warm, but it stung my eyes, making them ache. My vision was filled with the lightness and relief of a man reborn. From this day forward, I would live only for myself. My sole purpose in life was revenge. Trailing me were several bodyguards Olivia Harper had assigned. They called it protection, but it was really surveillance. They started by bringing in a psychologist to perform a so-called correction, their only goal being to turn me into Olivia Harper's obedient little dog. Seeing how well I complied, the behavioral therapists gradually let their guard down. The dining table was laden with exquisite dishes, all of them favorites of my wife's childhood sweetheart, Ryan. "Are you still holding a grudge against Ryan Ford?" she asked. "Why else would you eat so little?" The hand I used to hold my fork trembled slightly. Olivia Harper shot me a suspicious glance before unhappily spooning a few more home-style dishes onto my plate. "Olivia, maybe I should go," Ryan offered. "Let Lucas cool down, or this meal is going to be uncomfortable for all of us." The words had barely left his mouth when I saw a triumphant smirk flash across his face. "You don't have to go, I'll go," I started to say. Before I could finish, a stinging slap struck my face, a fiery red handprint instantly blooming on my cheek. "It seems those useless therapists failed to teach you how to speak to Ryan Ford, didn't they?" she sneered. "Starting today, all punishments will be doubled." A flash of terror crossed my face, but inwardly, I was laughing coldly. Olivia Harper hadn't changed one bit. She would always take her childhood sweetheart side. The torment I endured over those 5 years was more than any human should bear. Olivia's psychological torture was one part of it, but even worse was the relentless abuse from her 12 bodyguards. It was a fate worse than death. If the thought of revenge hadn't kept me alive, the weeds on my grave would be 6 feet tall by now. "I'm sorry, it was my fault," I choked out, kneeling on the floor. I slammed my forehead against the ground again and again, until a dark pool of blood formed beneath me. "You're disgusting. You've ruined the mood," Olivia cursed, her voice frigid. Her brow was furrowed in a tight knot, as if she hadn't expected 5 years of captivity to reduce me to this. "Get out of my sight." Ryan Ford leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Lucas, you will never win against me. You see, all I have to do is play the victim for a second, and she won't believe a single word you say." He added, "So you'd better learn your place. Otherwise, it's another 5 years for you, and you won't crawl out so easily next time." My name is Lucas, and in that moment, I felt a rage so intense it could have burned him where he stood. So, this was all Ryan Ford's master plan, and Olivia Harper was nothing more than his accomplice. But she was the one who carried it all out with her own 2 hands. How could I ever trust her again? To think she knew nothing about it? What a joke. Lying in bed, I racked my brain trying to figure out how to contact the outside world. My body was a canvas of injuries. I couldn't even dream of overpowering Olivia, let alone the 2 guards outside my door. My only chance was to get my hands on a phone, and it had to be tonight. The pain was so intense, I couldn't sleep. In the darkness, a soft body suddenly pressed against mine. She reeked of alcohol, mumbling as she wrapped herself around me. demanding intimacy. I remained silent the entire night. What did she take me for? Some kind of animal? Suddenly, the phone on the nightstand lit up. It was like a lifeline appearing in the darkness. Olivia Harper's birthday. Password incorrect. Ryan Ford's birthday. Still wrong. I tried my own birthday, and with a soft chime, the phone unlocked. After 5 long years, Olivia Harper's password was still the same. I quickly sent a text message to a secure number, then meticulously deleted every trace of my activity before placing the phone back and returning to bed. I looked at her face, so unchanged from 5 years ago, and couldn't stop myself from leaning down to kiss her one last time. Olivia Harper, Ryan Ford, you just wait, I whispered. My revenge is only just beginning. It wasn't long before my people arrived, sent by the Miller family. It was a man and a woman, both retired special forces. The 2 bodyguards at the door were no match for them. They were on the ground in seconds. Just as they were about to permanently disable the guards, I held up a hand to stop them. The game was just beginning. I couldn't have players leaving the board this early. I completely ignored the 2 guards groaning on the floor and had my rescuers, a man and a woman, take me to the hospital. My God, how on earth did this patient get into this condition? The doctor exclaimed after reviewing my chart. There are over 500 fractures, both large and small, all over his body, he continued. How exactly were you caring for him? Any later, and he would have been permanently crippled. Another voice, a nurse, cut in. Doctor, we need to prepare for surgery immediately. The family can go settle the bill. The man, Cole, stood guard outside the operating room while the woman, Red, went to handle the paperwork. Thankfully, the Millers had already wired a substantial amount of money. Otherwise, there's no way I could have afforded the surgery. The operation took the better part of the day, but finally, the doors to the OR opened, and a nurse slowly wheeled my bed out. Red and Cole immediately rushed forward. Before they could even wheel me into a room, I heard 2 voices I knew all too well. I recognized them instantly. My wife, Olivia Harper, and her childhood sweetheart, Ryan Ford. Olivia. Ryan's voice was soft and full of excitement. This is our first child. Once things settle down, let's get married, all right? As he spoke, a flicker of shame crossed Olivia's face, though her eyes also held a shadow of doubt. She couldn't very well refuse him in public, so she took his hand, intending to lead him away. But as she looked up, she ran right into us. Olivia froze for a second. Then her expression hardened into a furious glare. You bastard, she snarled. Didn't I tell you to stay home, where you belong? How dare you follow me to the hospital? And where are those 2 useless bodyguards? Ryan Ford immediately chimed in, adding fuel to the fire. Olivia, don't you think it's possible he's faking these injuries to get your sympathy? He suggested. He's just trying to soften you up so you'll forgive him. After all, he used to do a lot for you. Maybe you should just forgive him this one time. He made it sound like he was defending me, but his words were clearly designed to drag my name through the mud, painting me as a manipulator faking it all for pity. And Olivia bought it completely, her expression turning glacial. Ryan, don't defend him. 5 years locked away taught him nothing. He's nothing but a liar. I had to fight the urge to rush forward and slap her across the face. I sneered to myself. I hadn't even said a single word, and she had already declared me guilty. I feigned a sudden realization and lowered my voice. My body gave out, so the 2 guards brought me here, I said, gesturing vaguely toward Red. I hired a private nurse, so I sent them home. A faint, knowing smile played on Ryan's lips. I knew it. You must have bribed those 2 guards. How else could you have shown up right on our heels? And what if I did? I shot back, my anger flaring as I abandoned the pretense of obedience. Olivia is pregnant. As her husband, am I not allowed to show some concern? The words had barely left my lips before Olivia's hand cracked across my face again. You're coming with me, she hissed through clenched teeth. I'll deal with those 2 traitors myself. Red and Cole started to move forward, but I stopped them with a look, signaling that I'd call them later. Olivia impatiently dragged me out of the hospital and shoved me into the driver's seat of the car. She and Ryan climbed into the back. I smirked to myself. The show was about to begin. And first on the agenda was removing a couple of pawns from her side of the board. Back at the villa, the two bodyguards were kneeling on the floor, begging for mercy. They were simmering with rage, having first been beaten senseless by Red and Cole, and now being falsely accused of colluding with me. But it was 2 against 10. They stood no chance and were on the floor in seconds. Just then, Olivia Harper's phone rang. She took the call, announced there was an emergency at the office she had to handle, and left Ryan in charge. The second she was out the door, Ryan's true colors came shining through. He ordered the other 10 guards to use the 2 men on the floor as punching bags, kicking and beating them mercilessly. The room filled with agonizing screams. I put on a show of being unable to watch, urging Ryan not to be too harsh. One of the beaten guards turned to me. "Mr. Miller, we were blind," he rasped. "We're so sorry." The other screamed at Ryan. "You son of a bitch, you went back on your word, and now you're going to get rid of us." The looks the 2 men on the floor gave me were filled with guilt, obviously regretting how they had treated me. If they hadn't thrown their lot in with Ryan Ford, they wouldn't be in this mess. Ryan, however, looked utterly self-satisfied, ignoring their pleas. He had his men beat them half to death, then toss them out of the villa like garbage. As they were dragged away, I made sure my face was a perfect mask of heartbroken sympathy. Ryan saw it all. He was just about to turn on me when his phone rang again. It was Olivia, telling him to get back to the office immediately. "You're lucky," Ryan snarled, glaring at me. "I'll deal with you when I get back." He turned to the 4 remaining bodyguards. "You 4, throw him back in the basement and keep a close eye on him. If anything, and I mean anything, goes wrong, you'll answer for it." The remaining guards were seething, but none dared to speak out, so they directed all their frustration at me. Luckily, I played the part of the cooperative prisoner perfectly and managed to avoid another beating. As I was thrown back into that familiar basement, I started mapping out the next steps of my revenge. Everything was proceeding exactly as I had planned. It was time to initiate the next phase. In total, there had been 12 bodyguards who had tortured me. With the 2 who were just beaten and thrown out, that left 10. It was time to start collecting on that debt, with interest, and I would start with the 4 men currently guarding me. As for where to light the first spark, I already had the perfect idea. The heavy door slammed shut, plunging me back into darkness. Everything now depended on how well Red and Cole had set the stage. My phone vibrated silently in my pocket. A new message. "Everything is in place." I pulled out a small remote detonator. The moment I pressed the button, a flicker of flame ignited in a hidden corner of the villa. It spread like wildfire, rapidly engulfing the entire mansion. By the time the 4 guards upstairs noticed something was wrong and started frantically calling for help, the fire was already out of control. The intense heat quickly radiated down to the basement, washing over me in searing waves. I took my chance and tossed the phone and the remote through a crack in the door, sending them into the raging inferno. Neighbors had already called 911, and fire trucks soon arrived, their crews battling desperately to contain the blaze. But the 4 guards upstairs didn't give a damn about my survival. Terrified of what Ryan Ford would do to them, they made a run for it, fleeing Chicago that very night. Olivia Harper, buried in work at the office, was stunned when she got the call about the fire. She ended her meeting on the spot, ignoring Ryan Ford's attempts to stop her. By the time she arrived in a panic, it was already too late. All that greeted Olivia was a smoldering ruin, burned beyond all recognition. She pushed her way through the crowd of onlookers, desperately searching the wreckage for any sign of me. When someone suggested I might still be trapped inside, she completely lost control, trying to charge into the still-burning rubble. Luckily, Ryan Ford arrived just in time to grab her and hold her back. "Lucas, don't you die," she shrieked. "You promised you would love me forever." Her hysterical cries cut through the night air, sharp and painful to hear. But none of it meant anything to me anymore. I had no interest in her newfound devotion. I had survived. The firefighters pulled me from the basement. Fortunately, the fire had started far enough away that the worst of it hadn't reached me. By the time they found me, however, I was unconscious. Or, more accurately, pretending to be. I had simply inhaled just enough smoke to make it look like I was hanging on by a thread. I was rushed to the hospital, where Olivia kept a constant vigil by my bedside. The sight of it drove Ryan Ford mad with jealousy. I can only imagine how many times he wished me dead. The 4 bodyguards who ran were eventually caught and made the scapegoats for the arson. Shortly after their sentencing, all 4 of them suffered complete mental breakdowns. Ryan Ford stayed by Olivia's side constantly, erasing any lingering resentment she might have had toward him. But with Olivia out of the picture for so long, the company fell into chaos. Partners began pulling out, contracts were canceled, and a plague of panic spread through the entire corporation. I remained unconscious in the hospital for 3 days before finally waking up. Even my doctor called it a miracle that I'd survived. Yet, less than 3 days after being discharged, I was back in the hospital, and this time, the doctor lost his temper right in front of Olivia. He told her she was being a completely irresponsible wife, allowing her husband to be readmitted just days after he was discharged. His words seemed to strike a chord with Olivia. She froze, and a flicker of guilt crossed her face. For the first time, she seemed to seriously consider it. In that fire, Lucas had truly been at death's door. He hadn't been faking it to win her sympathy. With this thought, she reached out, rolled up my sleeve, and then pulled aside my hospital gown to reveal the horrific tapestry of scars covering my back. Those bastards! How dare they do this to her husband? Her soft hand traced the lines of the scars, and a jolt of pain made me grunt involuntarily. Darling, I'm sorry. Did I hurt you? Hearing her call me darling, I could only laugh to myself. Wasn't she the one, directly or indirectly, responsible for all of this? Standing nearby, Ryan Ford looked like he was about to breathe fire. In all the years since he'd abandoned Olivia to go abroad, right up to his return, she had never shown him this kind of tender, meticulous care. No, I'm her childhood sweetheart, he seethed internally. She's supposed to love me. I recoiled from Olivia's touch, shoving her hand away as my expression turned to ice. What? You're just now starting to feel sorry for me? I asked. I'll tell you right now, every one of these scars came from your dozen bodyguards. Her eyes widened as she stared at me. How is that possible? I pay them a fortune. They wouldn't dare lay a hand on you without my direct order. I scoffed. You've always believed that, haven't you? That they're your loyal dogs, and they only do what you tell them. Just as I said it, 2 bodyguards wheeled Ryan Ford over to us. Olivia, Ryan began, I went ahead and got us some dinner. I was worried you were hungry. You stay here with Lucas for now. My leg will be fine. I held my medical report in my hand, watching the scene unfold with a cold, calm heart. I was curious to see what Olivia would choose this time. Would she stay with the husband she had imprisoned for 5 years, or would she leave with her childhood sweetheart? Olivia hesitated for a moment, her eyes lingering on my face. Lucas, wait here for me, she said finally. Ryan was injured because of us. I need to go check on him. Even though I knew what she was going to say, hearing the words come from her mouth still crushed the last tiny flicker of hope I had for her. Just like 5 years ago, she chose Ryan Ford. But this time, I wouldn't let her hurt me again. After my release from the hospital, I made a special trip to the fire station. I wanted to meet the firefighter who had pulled me from the blaze. To my surprise, it was a woman. She was the one who had ignored everyone's warnings and charged into the inferno alone to drag me out of that basement. The act had left her with severe burns, with scars covering nearly 90% of her face. Looking at her scarred face, I felt a strange sense of kinship, as if I were looking at a long-lost relative. So, the first thing I did after being discharged this time was to find this firefighter, whose name was Emily Miller. The scars hadn't broken her spirit. The moment she was cleared for duty, she was back on the job, rushing headlong into danger. I saw a reflection of myself in her resilience. The one thing that put me at ease was that she kept a respectful distance. She was just a little shy and reserved whenever I spoke to her. I eventually learned why. She had seen me with Olivia at the hospital and was worried about causing a misunderstanding. So, where's your wife? Emily asked, unable to stop herself. Being discharged is a big deal. Why isn't she here to pick you up? She regretted the words the moment they left her mouth, feeling she had revealed too much. From the first moment she saw me, she'd felt an unexplainable connection, a constant pull to be closer to me. But once she found out I was married, she had constantly warned herself, stay away, stop thinking about him, just forget him. The emotions playing across Emily's face were so clear I could read them like a book. I spoke suddenly. She won't be my wife for much longer, I said. We're getting a divorce. And as for why she isn't here, I'll tell you straight. She's cheating on me with her childhood sweetheart. Emily's hands clenched into fists. Well, that's what she deserves, she said, her voice a mix of apology and indignation. To have a husband like you and not cherish him, she's going to regret that for the rest of her life. I nodded and, seizing the moment, invited her to get steak with me. This time, she didn't refuse. We had just been seated when Ryan Ford walked into the restaurant with Olivia Harper on his arm. Trailing them were 6 bodyguards in black suits. It was obvious how much she cared about Ryan. She had even reassigned all of my guards to his protection detail. Olivia looked surprised to see me at first, but when her eyes landed on Emily, her expression instantly turned to ice, her eyes blazing with fury. The pressure at work already had her wound tight. This was all the spark she needed to explode. Without a single word from Ryan, she stormed over to our table. Emily started to rise to greet her, but Olivia swung without warning, slapping her hard across the face. "You slut," she screamed. "How dare you try to seduce my husband right in front of me? Have you no shame? Tell me your name. How long have you been sleeping with my husband?" The slap was so unexpected that Emily stumbled, nearly falling to the floor. But before she could, I caught her, steadying her with my hands. I immediately raised my hand to strike Olivia back, but Ryan, playing the hero, jumped in front of her and took the full force of the blow. I hadn't held back at all. My hand connected solidly with his face, and his cheek began to swell instantly. "Lucas, how could you hit her so hard?" Ryan demanded angrily. "Have you forgotten everything Olivia has done for you all these years? She handled everything for you. She was worried you'd be hungry today, so she came here specifically to get your favorite food. And this is how you repay her? By cheating on her with some other woman? Have you no shame?" "He's right, Lucas," Olivia added, grabbing my sleeve with a possessive, scolding tone. "Get away from this ugly woman. She is not worthy of you." Tears began to stream down Emily's face. I threw off Olivia's hand, my voice as cold as ice. "Olivia Harper, you will not insult her," I said. "She saved my life." My gaze shifted to Ryan's swollen face. "And if you were really so concerned about me, you wouldn't have forgotten that today was the day I was released from the hospital." Then I turned back to Olivia and said, word by word, "Olivia Harper, I want a divorce." Olivia took a few steps after us, but could only watch as we disappeared around the corner. She turned back to Ryan, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "You told me he wasn't being discharged until tomorrow." Pinned by her stare, Ryan was visibly flustered, his guilt written all over his face. He glanced nervously in the direction I'd gone before quickly pulling out his phone and pointing at the bodyguards to shift the blame. "It was them," he stammered. "They're the ones who told me Lucas was getting out tomorrow. I was careless. I didn't double-check. That's why this whole misunderstanding happened." The bodyguards' faces darkened, but not one of them dared to speak. They all knew the score. When it came to Olivia Harper, Ryan Ford's word was law. So they had no choice but to take the fall. Olivia watched me walk away, her expression growing colder by the second. "Since they're so unreliable, fire them all," she said flatly. "Find replacements." Ryan grew instantly nervous. Isn't that a bit of an overreaction? They were just worried about my leg and lost track of Lucas's situation for a moment. "Olivia, please, just give them one more chance." Olivia didn't reply. Her impatience with him was obvious. "Ryan, I have to get back to the office," she said coolly. "You guys get him to the hospital. And if something like this happens again, you're all fired." By the time Olivia got back to her office, I was already there, filing my resignation papers. I had hoped to avoid her family, but I ran right into the people I least wanted to see: Olivia's parents and her brother, Jacob Harper. I didn't need to ask to know why they were there. It was for money. It was the same reason 5 years ago, and nothing had changed. Their arrival barely caused a ripple. The employees were used to these scenes and discreetly gave them a wide berth. The receptionist, looking weary and hiding her annoyance, led them toward the CEO's office. Just then, the director of HR was placing my resignation letter on Olivia's desk for her signature. Lucas Miller is resigning. Olivia snapped. Who authorized this? The famously icy CEO slammed the letter down on the desk. Do you have any idea that he is the vice president of this company? The HR director, a bit defiantly, replied, but he hasn't had any real authority in 5 years. His position's been demoted repeatedly. He's just a junior technician in RD now. According to company policy, his resignation doesn't require. Before she could finish her sentence, the office door was thrown open. Mr. and Mrs. Harper barged in and immediately started laying into Olivia. Where is our $1 million monthly allowance? Her father demanded. And your brother is still short $28,000 for his condo. Don't you even care? Hearing them, Olivia felt a familiar throbbing in her temples. Every time she saw her parents or her brother, all they ever talked about was money. But now, when the company could barely stay afloat, they still wanted to come and bleed her dry. Mom, Dad, I've told you a dozen times, the company can't spare that kind of money right now, she said. And as for a house, I already bought him that mansion in Beverly Hills. Sensing the impatience in her voice, her parents immediately started throwing things and screaming. You ungrateful brat. We should have never had you. If you don't stop this right now, Olivia interrupted, her voice firm and cold, I will have security escort you out. Seeing her uncharacteristically firm stance, they instantly changed their tune. Olivia, honey, why are you still holding on to that useless Lucas Miller? Her mother cooed. Wouldn't it be better to just divorce him and make things official with Ryan? Her brother, Jacob, quickly jumped in. Sis, don't be mad at Mom and Dad. They can have a mansion you gave me. I don't want it. I'll earn the money from my own place, he said, before adding, Hey sis, speaking of which, maybe you could set me up with a VP position here at the company? Olivia didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Her family was a pack of leeches. They bled her dry when she was rich, and now that the company was on the verge of collapse, they wanted to rip out a pound of flesh. By this point, I had reached the office door. Everything unfolding inside was going exactly as I planned. After all, I was the one who had invited them. Infighting, division, chaos. The Harper family would be the final straw that broke this company's back. Next on my list were the 6 remaining bodyguards. As for Ryan Ford, I was saving him for last. I had already tasked the Miller family's people with gathering all the evidence of his embezzlement and corruption over the years. That evening, I received an invitation from Olivia. She wanted me to attend a client appreciation gala. The event was hosted by the powerful Miller family, but officially, the invitation came from CEO Olivia Harper to her assistant, which was me. She had sent me an iMessage earlier, and I had accepted immediately. I put on the bespoke suit Olivia had insisted on having tailored for me. Looking in the mirror, I saw a glimpse of the confident man I had been 5 years ago. Tonight, Ryan Ford, the company's actual vice president, was trailing behind us like a lowly assistant. To be fair to her, Olivia was probably desperate to arrange things this way. Otherwise, she never would have subjected Ryan to such a public humiliation. I glanced back at him. The resentment on his face was practically boiling over, but I couldn't have cared less. Olivia and I walked side by side into the glittering ballroom. Corporate executives and investors constantly approached us. Mr. Jennings, good to see you again. Mr. Wallace, you're looking well. Ryan hurried forward, handing out prepared folders. This is the latest partnership proposal from the Harper Corporation, he'd say. It's a low-investment, high-yield opportunity you should all consider. But every pitch he made was met with a polite brush-off or a cold shoulder. One executive even blocked his number right in front of him. This finally aroused Olivia's suspicion. She took one of the proposal folders from him and opened it. Inside wasn't a business plan. It was a thick stack of documents providing irrefutable proof of illegal asset transfers out of the Harper Corporation. The color drained from Olivia's face. She whirled around, grabbed Ryan by his tie, and slapped him hard. Ryan, haven't I given you everything? She screamed. I bought you the mansion. I bought you the private jet. What more could you possibly want? Why would you embezzle from the company? The Harper Corporation is our company. Olivia, what are you talking about? Ryan stammered, his eyes darting to the contents of the folder. His initial panic quickly morphed into pure venom as his gaze slowly shifted to me. Lucas Miller, you switched these files, didn't you? He accused. I checked them myself before we left. Tell Olivia you're the one who did this. Seeing him this panicked was deeply, deeply amusing. Mr. Ford, I've been right beside Olivia this entire time, I said calmly. When exactly would I have had the opportunity to switch your documents? Instead of suspecting your own team, you're pointing the finger at a former employee who left the company 5 years ago. That's truly ridiculous. Ryan started to protest, but Olivia's gaze darted between the two of us. I expected her to turn her suspicion on me, but instead, she spoke. Ryan, find out who is responsible for this and get rid of them. And make it clean. This cannot get out to the press. If it does, you will answer to me, she finished. Ryan shot me a look so full of hatred it could have killed. I simply turned away, not wanting to look at his disgusting face a moment longer. Lucas, Olivia said, turning to me. I remember you're on good terms with Mr. Jennings and Mr. Wallace. I want you to come with me. We'll greet them and talk about a partnership. If you can close these deals, the VP position is yours. Any shred of goodwill she had earned by my hospital bedside vanished in that instant. I just gave a slight nod, letting her see a glimmer of hope. It would make it all the more satisfying when I snuffed it out myself. Leveraging my status as the Miller family heir, I quickly found common ground with Mr. Wallace and Mr. Jennings. They both expressed immediate and strong interest in a partnership, even preparing to sign contracts on the spot. For the first time in ages, a genuine smile spread across Olivia's face. She cupped my face in her hands and kissed me. Lucas, you're my good luck charm. A good luck charm? More like the harbinger of your doom. Just as pens were poised over paper, a vibration went through the room as everyone's phones buzzed at the same time. The news about the Harper Corporation's illegal asset transfers was the #1 trending topic on Twitter. Ms. Harper, is this how you do business? One of them demanded. This is outright fraud. I reserve every right to sue. I heard the Millers took in some pretty boy who's useless but great at starting trouble, someone muttered. Yeah, the Harper Corporation is about to go under. You'd have to be an idiot to invest in them now. Seeing the news spreading like wildfire online, Olivia's legs gave out from under her. She collapsed to the floor, her eyes filled with utter despair. I knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. CEO Harper, I said slowly, what's our next move? If the news is true and Mr. Ford has really absconded with the funds, what are we going to do? This time, my words hit their mark. Lucas, we need to get back to the office now, she said. If you help me through this, I'll give you the CEO position. I knew exactly what she was planning. She was going to run off with Ryan and leave me behind to be the fall guy. But that suited my plans perfectly. This was my chance to take back control of the company. After a moment of feigned hesitation, I agreed. First, Olivia and I completed the paperwork to change the company's legal representative over to me. At the same time, we signed our divorce papers and filed the official petition. But due to the mandatory 1-month cooling-off period, the divorce wouldn't be final just yet. As we were leaving the ballroom, Olivia turned to me, her face a mask of regret. Lucas, I don't want to leave you. I really don't. But I have to go abroad for a few days. Please, just keep the company afloat until I get back. Her words were laughable. Did she really expect me to clean up a mess I had spent 3 months creating? Did she still think I was the same fool, blinded by love? The quiet listing of her cars, the secret transfer of her properties. Did she think I didn't know? I was just letting her climb higher, so the fall would be that much greater. The moment she and Ryan were gone, I called the police. The police moved fast, apprehending Olivia at the airport just as she was about to board her flight. But Ryan Ford, the man who was supposed to be fleeing the country with her, was nowhere to be seen. He had never planned on going with her at all. The next time I saw Olivia Harper, she was in a holding cell. The moment she laid eyes on me, she saw a lifeline begging me to post her bail. Of course I agreed. After all, she was pregnant and the charges weren't that severe. With a sponsor, she was eligible for bail. Her parents visited a few times, but they only ever asked for one thing: money. Their son, Jacob, was a gambling addict and had long ago lost the mansion Olivia gave him at a poker table. Without Olivia as their personal ATM, the family fortune was gone. They had even sold their own house. They didn't have a dime for their daughter's bail. "Darling, just hang tight in here for a few more days," I told her. "I'm going to raise the money, get the company back on its feet, and then I'll be back for you." With that, I turned to leave. Olivia grew frantic. "Darling, the company must be a total mess. You have to work with the senior managers. You have to get everyone through this together. I have a lot of loyal people. Here's a list. Contact them. They'll listen to you." I took the handwritten list from her, my determination solidifying. Olivia and I had built this company together, brick by brick. I knew every inch of it. In a matter of days, I conducted a complete overhaul, replacing her entire staff with my own people. Even the security guards were fired and replaced with men loyal to the Miller family. My name is Lucas Miller, and I would never allow myself to be trapped again. A few days later, I posted bail and picked Olivia up from the detention center. As for the 12 bodyguards who had tortured me, some were dead, some were in prison, and the rest were crippled, their legs having been permanently broken. That left only one name on my list: Ryan Ford. He had vanished without a trace. Neither the police nor the private investigators hired by my family could find him. But his assets were frozen, and we knew he was still in the country. It was only a matter of time. To ensure my own safety, in addition to Red and Cole, my mother assigned 2 more bodyguards to my personal detail. My mansion was now a fortress. As for Olivia, I didn't restrict her freedom, other than forbidding her from leaving the mansion grounds. The entire estate was blanketed with hidden cameras, waiting for a certain snake to crawl out of his hole and take the bait. When I got back to the mansion, Olivia had prepared a home-cooked meal. I had to admit, her cooking had improved dramatically. She was better than most professional chefs now, a far cry from the woman I married 5 years ago. I knew exactly why. She must have spent the last 5 years cooking for Ryan Ford. And yet, the taste was so familiar, bringing back a flood of memories I had long since tried to bury. Olivia stood nearby, her eyes darting between the new maids and bodyguards. It was clear she now understood that I came from a powerful family. She was being crucified by the public online. Being locked away in this mansion was probably a welcome respite. After dinner, I got up to leave, but Olivia called out to me. She pulled a slip of paper from her pocket. On it was an address, the location of a secret stash of cash she had hidden away. My expression soured. "Olivia Harper, do you really think I care about your petty cash?" She was speechless. Then, a recent headline flashed in her mind. The Miller family had officially announced the return of their long-lost son, Lucas Miller, sole heir to the entire Miller fortune. That heir had the exact same name as her husband. There were also rumors that the Millers had lost a daughter years ago and were now offering a $700,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts. Olivia stepped forward and grabbed my hand. "No matter what, I know I've wronged you for the past 5 years. I honestly had no idea they were treating you so horribly, but I did help you get your revenge on them. Lucas, I am truly, truly sorry." I pulled my hand away, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. The only person I could trust right now was Emily, but I hadn't been able to reach her all day. The strange silence gave me a terrible feeling. Had she been kidnapped? "Tell me the truth," I demanded. "Does Ryan have any other hideouts besides that old family cabin in Vermont?" Olivia looked stunned. Did he kidnap someone? Let me think. Yes, I heard him talking in his sleep once. He mentioned a safe house. 56 Elm Street, upstate. I turned to the other guards. "Watch her." Then to my personal detail. "Cole, Red, you're with me." "Lucas, be careful," she called after me. "That bastard Ryan is capable of anything." I gave a few quick orders, then got in the car and sped toward the address Olivia had given me. It was in a remote town, impossible to find without a local guide. For a hefty sum of $28,000, we found a local willing to take us. He led us right to 56 Elm Street. 2 men stood guard at the door. I recognized them as 2 of the original 12 bodyguards. I had Red call for police backup while Cole and I crept toward the house. I listened from outside the door as they talked. There were 6 of them in total, the same 6 Olivia had ordered Ryan to get rid of. We were well prepared and well armed. We waited for the guards at the door to be distracted, then slipped into the yard unnoticed. Inside, the kidnappers had Ryan Ford surrounded, demanding he give them all the money he had stolen. Ryan told them everything. He even suggested they kidnap Emily, the firefighter who saved me, and use her to demand a ransom from the Miller family. Hearing his vile suggestion, I wanted to tear him apart with my bare hands. "Well, Mr. Ford, aren't you just full of bright ideas?" One of the kidnappers sneered. "Why don't you stick around for a while? We'll let you go as soon as we've collected the money you told us about." "As for this Emily Miller," another one said, "let's see just how much ransom young Mr. Lucas Miller is willing to pay for her. But before that, boys, let's have a little fun with her." Seeing them move toward Emily, I knew I couldn't wait. I burst into the room, with Cole providing cover from behind. The kidnappers were already injured from their previous beating and were no match for Cole. When Red joined the fight, they were subdued in seconds. But one of them, his eyes wild with desperation, lunged for Emily, slashing and stabbing with a knife in a suicidal frenzy. Red and Cole were busy with the others. I was the only one standing between the kidnapper and Emily. After 5 years in that basement, my body was weak. I was no match for him. He stabbed me a dozen times, blood pouring from my wounds. As he lunged for Emily's heart, I threw my body over hers, shielding her completely. A spray of red filled the air, and my vision began to go dark. Just before I lost consciousness, I thought I heard someone screaming my name. I had a long, long dream. I thought I was falling into the depths of hell, but a familiar voice refused to let me go. "Brother, you have to wake up," it said. "Even if you're going to die, you have to at least see the baby." Ryan Ford somehow had survived. That familiar voice had pulled me back from the brink of the abyss. "It's a medical miracle," the doctor marveled. I was awake, but my injuries were catastrophic. The tendons in my wrists and ankles had been completely severed. I would spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. "Emily," I asked, confused. "The baby you mentioned, you're not pregnant, are you?" The beautiful young woman by my bedside poked my forehead in exasperation. "Of course not me, you idiot," she said. "I'm your sister. I'm the missing Miller daughter. And I'm not lying about the baby," she continued. "It's real. It's Olivia's baby. We did a DNA test. Lucas, it's yours." My mind buzzed, flashing back 6 months. The night Olivia had come down to the basement, blind drunk. The night she had tormented me, clinging to me, refusing to let me go. So that was the night. "Lucas, let's not get the divorce, please. I'm carrying your child." Olivia stood in the doorway of my hospital room, hesitating, afraid to come any closer. Emily explained everything. When I had needed an emergency transfusion, Olivia was the first one there to donate her blood. While I was in a coma, she never left my side, staying by my bed day and night. And during that time, the baby had been born healthy and safe. It would likely be the only heir I could ever give the Miller family. Though I had survived, fate had played a cruel trick. The blood loss and the severity of my injuries had left me sterile. I would never be able to have children again. 3 months later, Ryan Ford was sentenced to 30 years in prison. The other kidnappers received sentences of up to 20 years. Because I chose to forgive her, Olivia was let off with only a fine. The moment the verdict was read, I publicly renounced my inheritance, transferring all my assets to my sister, Emily. I wanted Olivia to have nothing. But Olivia didn't seem to care. "I owe you more than I can ever repay," she told me. "I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Since she offered, I decided to let her spend a lifetime trying. Olivia Harper. Epilogue. Lucas and I were in love for so many years, only to have it all destroyed by a childhood sweetheart I hadn't seen in ages. In our relationship, my husband was always the one giving, the one holding on. It was only after I'd lost everything that I realized the person I truly loved, the person I could never let go of, had always been Lucas. I wrongly accused him of poisoning my first love. I threw him out of our home and took his place as CEO. I ran the company into the ground, ending up with nothing. But miraculously, my husband survived, and we had a child together. I didn't care if he gave up his inheritance. I had already decided to spend the rest of my life by his side. A little bit of happiness. Though my husband's injuries had left him sterile, my own health was surprisingly robust. In the years that followed, we welcomed a daughter and then another son. My sister-in-law, Emily, proved to be a brilliant businesswoman. After taking over the Miller family enterprises, she tripled their value. She married a wonderful man who adored her, and within a year, they had a child of their own. And my husband and I lived a quiet, ordinary life. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful, and we were content. When my husband passed away at the age of 80, I had no desire to be left alone in this world. I took a bottle of sleeping pills and followed him. I was afraid he might be lonely in the next world without me to protect him. But most of all, I was afraid that in our next life, he might forget me. Imprisoned for 5 years by his wife, Scarlett, Ethan masterminds their downfall, seizing their company and having her arrested. He is permanently crippled in a final confrontation with his rival, but upon discovering Scarlett is pregnant with his child, he forgoes total vengeance for a complex reconciliation, accepting her lifelong atonement.